Twisted Metal 2 is one of the all-time PlayStation classics. This is a game that some people will swear by and even suggest that it is the best Twisted Metal of all time. Some fans will tell you that it's the peak of car combat, but playing it again in 2025? Yeah, I found that it does not hold up as well as any of us have remembered. I grew up in a time where video game rentals were common, and this is one of those games that I rented quite a bit. I had no problem with it back then, as it was superior to the original Twisted Metal, which was, of course, my only point of reference at that time. But I went back to it recently, and I realized something that hurts to admit. Twisted Metal 2 does not hold up in 2025, and today I'm breaking down why. To be clear, Twisted Metal 2 was great for its time, way back in 1996. Compared to the original, it had a better roster, bigger and more insane levels, and multiplayer chaos that felt revolutionary at the time. This isn't a video that tells you that the game was always bad, but nostalgia does blind us at times, and when you strip away those memories and try to play Twisted Metal 2 today, the cracks show fast. Let's start with the controls, which I feel is the biggest issue that you will feel immediately. The controls in this game are unlike any other game that you have to drive a car in, and not in a good way. First of all, this game came out in a time where the D-pad was being used to drive, not an analog stick. This was fine back in the day, but it really does take some getting used to now after all these years. One thing that really gets me is that the turning is inconsistent. I've noticed with some smaller vehicles that it's a bit too sensitive, and then other times they turn like tanks. I also noticed some inconsistencies with the button combos, such as the freeze and shield. They don't always work. It's kinda strange. These kind of inconsistencies make Twisted Metal a bit chaotic, and not in the good kart racer kind of way. It's the kind of chaos where you're not sure if you lost because of your mistakes, or just because the controls weren't built for your modern expectations. And then there's the AI. They might be the best at ganging up on the player versus any other game that I've played before. You'll find that enemies in Twisted Metal 2 have perfect aim, infinite specials, and absolutely no chill. This game has no difficulty spikes, it's just plain unfair. Modern games give players telegraphs or at least predictable patterns to follow. In Twisted Metal 2, you'll get free spammed and special spam by Sweet Tooth and Mr. Slam all game long. To this game's credit though, the levels are mostly good to great. Paris is fun and dynamic. This is the game that made rooftop levels a staple in the series. Antarctica might be the first example of a battle royale as the map shrinks over time. There are also a lot of Easter eggs in the levels, like the Statue of Liberty and the Hollywood sign. If you know, you know. But when you actually play the game today, you'll find that the lower tier maps can really ruin your day. Certain levels I find are too open and lack cover. Enemies even have a hard time with, let's say, Antarctica or the rooftops, as the controls plus the level design tends to lead you and them flying off the map. The bigger maps do cause frame drops, which is jarring at times, but it's also a product of the time. There's also one thing I'm not sure about, but I feel like enemies sometimes rubber band around the map, just like Mario Kart. Despite all of this, I have to respect the level design. There's a bunch of creativity, and even though the flaws are there, it is what it is for that time. Of course, it's very important for these Twisted Metal games to have a good weapon system, and I find the Twisted Metal 2's weapon system is still fun, especially versus the original. Lightning, napalm, ricochet bombs, better specials, they were all introduced in this one. The only issue I have with it is that the aiming system hasn't aged well. Most of the weapons in the game don't have a soft aim assist, there's no modern lock-on, or no visual clarity. Yeah, I guess those are aids that we're used to in these newer games, but it hurts, especially coupled with the subpar controls in this one. Sometimes I also notice that the weapon programming is inconsistent. Specials don't always register, homing weapons don't track perfectly, or randomly give up halfway, but it's still fun, just a bit random. Now we're going to talk about the visuals, but I'm not going to dwell on it too long because I don't blame Twisted Metal 2 for looking old. It is a 1996 PlayStation 1 game, and pretty much all those PS1 games have aged. However, I will say that it is a great improvement over the original game. Now we're going to talk about the sound. The soundtrack in this game still slaps and it suits the game perfectly. Weapons at times do sound flat and sometimes lack punch, and repeated voice lines do get old fast, especially Sweet Tooth's laughing. And the endings are iconic. They have good voice acting. It's very 90s, but it's some of the best in the series, especially Calypso's voice acting. Beneath all the cracks, Twisted Metal 2 has heart, tons of it. The secrets, the characters, the structure, the top-notch couch co-op, it's still a blast at times. But the key to this one is that Twisted Metal 2 is so fondly remembered because of nostalgia, not because the gameplay holds up 100%. So my final thoughts on this game in 2025? It's a relic, an important one at that, but a relic nonetheless. The controls, AI, and technical limitations make it hard to recommend, especially when I could just recommend Twisted Metal Black to you. But for us retro fans, it still scratches that chaotic, ridiculous itch, and maybe that's all it needs to do to stay in our hearts. And that is all for now. If you want more retro dives like this, subscribe, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments, which Twisted Metal is your favorite to play today? I am Kevin, and I thank you for playing Twisted Metal. Rebooting now.